Broadcasting live worldwide.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the studios in the wrestling capital of the South, it's another terrific episode of The BENGEBUSTER SHOW. Please welcome your host, Tony Binge.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of The BENGEBUSTER Show. As we are coming to you this week right here in the studios, right outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, the Queen City, the wrestling capital of the South. And right now, before we get started, I want to bring on my co-host. I'm talking about Mr. Rock and Roll Playboy Plano. Chris, welcome to the show.
Woo, terrific, Tony. Thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to tonight's show. We are talking Wrestlemania. So much happening in the wrestling business right now, and boy, there's just a lot going on. Who's going here, there, and everywhere. I'm excited.
Yeah, man, it is crazy. It's like you turn on wrestling, and then you miss 1 week, and it's like, what did I miss? I mean, so much, like you said, so much going on. I know our good friends over in with the PWF, they've got a huge show coming on. And not only them, but the NAWA has got a huge show coming up, later on at the end of this month, and so we'll definitely be hearing from them later on. But Chris, man, I'm excited about this week's show as we are going to be doing the Wrestlemania recap. I know we're probably about a week behind on this. On this podcast, but last week we had some stuff going on and wasn't able to record, but we're back this week, hopefully stronger than ever and ready to break down WrestleMania. But Chris, before we get into the matches, man, back when WrestleMania happened, a year ago, I was there live there in Orlando, got to experience night one, but now, we fast forward a year later, the pandemic has definitely loosened up, and there was definitely a much larger crowd for this year's WrestleMania compared to last year's. Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, WrestleMania this year, both nights took place in Jerry Jones's world at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas, right in the heart of the great state of Texas, and right in the backyard of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and a lot of build-up going into this one. Both nights are very unique. I mean, I think everyone's accustomed to WrestleMania traditionally happening for many, many years and decades on the first Sunday in April, or even sometimes late March at 6 o'clock at night. Sometimes it starts and goes like all night, and now it seems like WrestleMania now is 2 nights, obviously with WWE having both the Raw, the SmackDown brand, maybe even a few of the NXT wrestlers as well, where there's just so much talent and so many storylines and matches. It's pretty much set up for kind of just a two night pay-per-view event at this point.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what they've done. And I think the reason behind that initially is I believe that they were trying to, as we all know, was definitely trying to cut back on how much exactly was going on there, having to do, a 10-hour show in one day. And a lot of people, I guess they complained about that. So they broke it up into 2 nights. But, what I do know is the first night of WrestleMania, they also, I'm sorry, not the first night of WrestleMania, but the night before WrestleMania, you got to think about this for a minute, Chris. WrestleMania weekend, think about how many hours are put in to putting on not just WrestleMania, but the show before WrestleMania, the SmackDown, the night before. And now what they did is if you bought a ticket to come to SmackDown, you also got to see the Hall of Fame. which is something I want to do. And Chris, I'm excited. I know I'm getting a little ahead of this, but next year WrestleMania is going to be going to my favorite town, Los Angeles, California. And Chris, I'm already making plans to hopefully go. And when I go to this one, man, I want to do the whole gig. I want to do the Hall of Fame. I want to do the Access. And of course, being in Hollywood, I'm gonna finally get my vacation in. I know we talked on the podcast earlier that I was going to go this summer, but some plans have changed, so I put that off to next year. So 2023, I'm going to be heading over to Hollywood and Los Angeles, and hopefully check out WrestleMania. But if I don't get to check out WrestleMania, I'm definitely going to go check out my second home, Hollywood, California. Now, before we get into this week's podcast, I want to play a commercial right quick. One of our sponsors, the NAWA, as they have a huge show coming up the end of this month. So we'll be right back right after this, fans.
The NAWA presents the benefit for the Caldwell County Crime Stoppers, Saturday, April 30th at Gamewell Middle School in Lenoir, North Carolina. On this tremendous card, you will see in action the Rock and Roll Express versus Myrick Moore and Mike Mon. The Barbarian and Golden Gladiator number 2 take on B&B and Johnny Ryder. Mr. Number 1 George South takes on AJ Frost. Plus see in action the Burke County Boys, the Saturday Night Superstar Tony Benz, Max Carnage, Ted, Axel Jaggers, and many more. That's Saturday, April 30th at Gamewell Middle School, Lenoir, North Carolina, 3210 Gamewell School Road, Lenoir, North Carolina. Also see meet and greet, have your picture taken with the Perfect 10 Baby Doll or Demolition Axe. That's Saturday, April 30th, Gamewell Middle School. Tickets, VIP, $12. General admission only $10. Kids, $5. And all children 5 and under are free with pay an adult. That's Saturday, April 30th at Gamewell Middle School. NAWA presents the benefit for the Caldwell County Crime Stoppers. Saturday, April 30th, Gamewell Middle School, Lenoir, North Carolina. Be there.
Man, Chris, I cannot wait for that show. Ooh. That show is loaded out, and I cannot wait. It's going to be a great time.
Man, Tony, I got to tip my hat to the Caldwell County Crime Stoppers, PWF. If you got Ricky Moore and Robert Gibson, WWE Hall of Famers, you know, the Rock and Roll Express is coming to town. You're going to have the Barbarian there, the Gladiator, Mr. Number 1 George South. I heard the Perfect 10 Baby Doll, Axe Demolition, and I know, Tony, you're getting ready for your big match that day on April 30th. Lenoir is going to be on fire to close out the month of April. And, boy, from top to bottom, man, it's a loaded card, and God knows who else may show up to the show as well.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And also, fans, all you great fans in the state of South Carolina and North Carolina, 2 weekends in a row, you got your chance to go out and see and meet the Rock and Roll Express. As we just played our first commercial this week, our first sponsor, the NAWA, as they're having their huge show there in Lenoir. And now we have our second commercial, our second sponsor, Patriotic Wrestling Federation, is also hosting the Rock and Roll Express on Saturday, April 23rd at the Louisville High School in Richburg, South Carolina. That's coming up April 23rd, and let's go to that right now.
Rock and roll is forever. It's like that solid gold rock and roll.
2 young men that really create excitement wherever they go. Robert Gibson and Rick Morton, the sensational tag team of the 80s. From Memphis, Tennessee, the Rock and Roll Express.
We're not here to play, baby. We are here to stay.
They have the most natural, amazing chemistry that I have ever witnessed. two good-looking guys. Every teenage girl in the building is madly in love with.
Express set at the top of the ladder of tag team wrestling.
Rock and Roll Express, you were unbelievable talents. We are the champions of the world. We've been down a lot of tough and hard roads, but every highway we went down led us right here. We got one thing behind us. That's all these nice folks out here. They stand for us. And brother, we stand for you. Rock and roll is here to stay. Woo!
There it is, fans. April 23rd, Richburg, South Carolina. Ricky and Robert come home to the Carolinas, the states, North Carolina, South Carolina, the Mid-Atlantic area is where Rock and Express really blew up, Chris, there in the 80s. And man, they are just as much over today as they were, in 1985, 1986, man. I'm telling you. So all you great fans in the Carolinas, this is your chance 2 weekends in a row to come out and see the Rock and Roll Express. And this great show is taking place Saturday, April 23rd in Richburg, South Carolina at the Louisville High School. And on that card, you will see not only the Rock and Roll Express, but AEW superstars Griff Garrison and Marcus Cross is going to be there, along with all the stars of the PWF. And Chris, I'm not going to be at this show. Unfortunately, I don't want to disappoint the fans too much, but I have a prior engagement, so I won't be able to come. But there will be another huge PWF show coming up. That show is coming up in May, and you got to tune in to next week's show. I've got a scoop for you, Chris. Mm-hmm. This announcement is going to blow all the Binge Buster fans away. The PWF is getting ready to announce a huge star coming to the PWF, and you're going to hear it first, fans, on my podcast next week.
Man, Tony, I'm excited. What a great time to be a wrestling fan. And listen, when you got Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, all these stars coming to town, the Rock and Roll Express, PWF, Richburg, South Carolina, April 23rd, NAWA up in Lenore the following week. Man, you never know what this could be the last time around you see these guys. You never know what's going to happen, with these guys, and you can never get any closer. You will never get any closer to getting autographs, pictures taken on your cell phones, whatever the deal is, and they'll be right there. They'll shake your hand. Memories for a lifetime. I know, Tony, you can't make it April 23rd. You got your hands full on April 30th up in Lenore. But, man, what a great time to check out some great independent pro wrestling in the Carolinas. Really, this is where it all started back in the day, and it's just a melting pot for great young talent making their way up the ladder, trying to get to that national level and getting to see guys that were one time on the national level really up close and personal.
Yeah, and it's just a great time. And the PWF, like I said, they're blowing up. The NAWA is blowing up. I mean, if you live in the Carolinas, Tennessee, Virginia, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, wherever, make that drive up 85 or 77, but get there and get your ticket, get early, come in and get your picture taken with a Rock and Roll Express, a Baby Doll, the Barbarian. I mean, here's your chance to meet some of the great legends of pro wrestling. Now, let's get to our show tonight, as we are going to be recapping WrestleMania. But before we get to WrestleMania, Chris, real quick, get your thoughts on this. The Undertaker's farewell speech, Hall of Fame speech, either way, whatever you want to call it, what an amazing time to sit there and hear The Undertaker talk about his illustrious career and thank the people that got him there along the way.
Man, yeah, it was great for the fans. I mean, if The Undertaker didn't say anything, I think just in being in the ring and getting the honor was probably enough. I mean, where do you begin? Where do you end? gosh, I mean, to put that kind of speech together must have been a nightmare for the writers behind the scenes and input from probably a lot of different angles. But, you know, he did so much for the WWF. And when he went to the WWF, you know, as The Undertaker, stayed loyal for the rest of his illustrious career.
Yeah.
You know, as The Undertaker, did have a brief stint in the in the NWA prior to and WCW, but after that, it was all WWF and WWE from there for The Undertaker, from a character that, you know, Vince McMahon and others thought he was the perfect fit for. Yeah. And brought it to fans and mesmerized fans for decades with storylines that were, you know, believable, you know, on television week after week with Kane and family members and this and that and Paul Bearer. It was made for television, and it was made for pay-per-views and for storylines, and it brought out the dark side of what people like to see to an extent.
Yeah. And, really, really cool time. But, you know, one of the things that the Undertaker said in his speech that once he said it kind of like a light bulb went off in my head. He said that he learned early on when he first came to the WWE, he was working a preliminary wrestler, an enhancement talent, if you will. And the guy didn't know his moves and was kind of blowing spots, and the Undertaker, you know, kind of beat him up a little bit. And once he came through the curtain, he said that Vince was standing there and said to him, you know, one thing you got to understand, perception is reality. And basically, when he said that, I'm like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, because, the things that people see, your attitude or your personality, that may not be who you are, all the time. But if you're in a pissy mood or in a bad mood and, you say or do something, that might go with you for a long time. So I definitely took, I took that, piece of advice from Mark or the Undertaker, and I'm going to try my best to apply that in my everyday life. I know, I've been guilty, at times when I'm wrestling, and I'm in there with somebody that may not know everything, and I get a little irritated, but, so I'm going to definitely do better with that. So, but, and all in all, it was a great speech. Ric Flair's was always my favorite, Hall of Fame speech, years past, but, I believe, Mark has definitely overshadowed that one, with this year's, and, it was very good. So, but congratulations to the Undertaker on a great career. And Chris, one thing that I think about the Undertaker, or one thing I think when I hear the Undertaker, is in the 70s and 80s, that main event attraction, the guy that they sent to the territory to pop a territory, was always Andre the Giant. And I feel like the Undertaker is the new Andre the Giant. He's the new, special attraction, the one that everybody wants to come and see. And I know I had the privilege, and I'm sure you have, of actually seeing the Undertaker in action live a few times. And I have to say, it's definitely an experience. And for all you younger fans out there listening, if you never got a chance to witness that, man, watching it on TV does not do it justice. You got to be there live to actually see the how it's like when the Undertaker comes out, and then of course the pop he gets. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
I mean, I mean, Tony, you go to, you and I have gone to many live professional wrestling events, and no, I've never been to a WrestleMania. I am so happy you had the chance to be in Tampa, Florida. You went to a WrestleMania. I would love to go to one day. It's a bucket list for me. I think I will check that off, here in the future.
I think next year.
Yeah, here we go. But, when I look back at my childhood, I was exposed to a lot of things in Connecticut and the Northeast with the WWF and even down here with the NWA. But, there's certain things you remember. And listen, I've seen so many matches. I've forgotten so much stuff. But, when I was growing up and when Hulk Hogan came to town and that music hit, I mean, the arena just exploded. Right. I mean, it was just like nothing you would ever see. And it's nothing against any other the wrestlers on the show or who's performing. When when Bob Backlund would come to the ring, the place would explode. I mean, when the world champion was in town, and when the Undertaker made his way to the ring, you remember that kind of stuff. When I remember in 1987, I believe, spring of 87, when the NWA came to town to Connecticut and Ric Flair walked the aisle, I jumped up and went crazy. It was the first time I ever seen Ric Flair in my life. And he had the purple robe on, and he's walking to the ring, and there's Ricky Steamboat in the ring, and the NWA champion's in front of me, and it was just, there's just certain things you remember that you just will never, ever get out of your head. Right. And, and The Undertaker's one of them. My fondest memory of The Undertaker was when in Providence, Rhode Island, I want to say it was either 93 or 94. It was the Royal Rumble in Providence, Rhode Island, when The Undertaker got lifted to the rafters. That particular pay-per-view, and that was awe-inspiring. I mean, it was like, okay, we're taking this thing to a different level. So there's just certain things you remember, and yeah, I mean, there's just so many. And listen, he's fought the best from top to bottom, and The Undertaker was also that kind of wrestler who he didn't need a title around his waist.
No, definitely not.
He was going to be over no matter what.
I mean, he was world champion several times, but you're exactly right.
And well deserving.
For sure. Right. But you're right. He definitely didn't need a title to be over, because that man was over from the first time that he came out with the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. So he was always over. So. Great times. Now, getting into WrestleMania 38, we're going to break it down. I thought that we break down each match by match, but I think just to conserve time, I like to kind of hit a few matches, get your thoughts on. If I leave out a match that you want to talk about, definitely bring it up. But we're going to start off with WrestleMania 38 Night 1. There were several matches on that card. The first match that really got my attention when I turned it on. I turned it on kind of like over halfway through, but it was Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's title. Those two girls were tearing it up, and with the new haircut. I didn't really realize that was Becky Lynch in there, but man, those two girls tore the house down.
Yes. Yes, they did. And there was a lot of build up to this match with Becky Lynch, with her attitude as the champion, Bianca Belair coming in with the big hair, the whippy hair, and really a pay-per-view where the first three matches, two of them were women's matches, which was a little rare with Charlotte Flair defeating Ronda Rousey early on. So for Becky Lynch, this was an opportunity for Bianca Belair to really elevate herself. She was coming in on a roll into this particular match. But Becky Lynch, no slouch as well. Great match. You're going to get it. You're taking on Becky Lynch, and it's a pay-per-view. You're going to have to work 110%. And Bianca Belair, I would say, definitely did that particular match on night one.
Yeah, I mean it's great. Seeing that match and and how hard they worked. I definitely enjoyed that one. Now the next one, the next match was kind of it definitely didn't have the to me. Now it was still a good match, but for some reason the finish to me was just kind of like wow. But Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's title. That match I don't believe held up to where they thought it was going to be. But I also think there might have been some behind the scenes things going on that may have prevented that from happening.
I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you, Tony. The Charlotte Flair Rousey match going into WrestleMania. Again, I went to the house, to SmackDown here a few weeks before WrestleMania here in Charlotte. And Ronda Rousey did not impress me. She came out, did a little thing. Charlotte Flair came out, destroyed her. And it's like, where's this storyline going?
Right.
And then it's like Ronda Rousey didn't have any steam coming into this thing other than it was Ronda Rousey, because in reality the way I look at how the result happened at the first night of WrestleMania. I'm kind of like, well, Charlotte Flair, whipped her all around the, outside of the ring, 3 weeks earlier.
Yeah.
Or 2 weeks earlier. So I don't know really I don't know. I don't know where Ronda Rousey's career really goes from here. Personally, other than, Charlotte Flair remains on top.
Yeah.
And who's the next opponent for her, or they're going to try to keep this storyline going? I just don't know.
Yeah. It was definitely different, to say the least. Now, the next thing, which I think was exciting for WrestleMania, was the return of the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, to WWE. And right now, fans, I want to play a little clip of his return at WrestleMania.
Create a professional look.
Well, we are having some difficulties with that. Let me try it one more time, and get this playing here for us.
Wrestling has more than one world family.
That was a huge shock right there, Chris, as Cody Rhodes made his return to the WWE. And I'll tell you, Chris, the thing about that whole thing that shocks me the most was, and I know you and I touched on this a while back, but it was so crazy that how he left AEW, and everyone kind of thought that he was like, one of the owners, which I think, he definitely was like one of the founding members, but definitely, not a owner of the company. And, it happens. People, talent leaves organizations all the time, and that's pretty much what happened there. WWE offered him a much better deal, and so he decided to go back. And I think that he's going to do really well. And I might be going out on a limb here, Chris, but it just feels like he's about to become the WWE champion.
Well, the thing with WrestleMania was, where's Cody Rhodes going to show up? Is it night one or is it night two? I mean, I think that was the biggest question. He obviously showed up night one. Seth Rollins, his mystery opponent. And it worked. Seth Rollins, a great wrestler within himself, a great opponent for Cody Rhodes. They definitely had history amongst each other, prior to. So, yeah, are there plans for Cody Rhodes? Yes, there is. I think the biggest stigma is, he's back in the WWE, and he is. He came from the WWE. But when I'm looking at the television, I can't get the AEW stuff kind of out of my mind. You know what I'm saying? Because he kind of jumped ship to go to AEW.
Right, yeah.
Right. So I can't get that stigma out of my mind to an extent. And also in the back of my mind is, Tony, you're in the business, been in the business. Some of the boys are talking to him on the other side.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. What's going on over there? So for someone like Tony Khan in AEW, Cody Rhodes could be his worst enemy at this point.
Yeah.
If we're going to start maybe potentially picking select talent from the other organization to come over, and that could easily happen. It's happened over and over and over the decades of professional wrestling. But yes, there are plans for Cody Rhodes. You kind of heard it this past week on Raw. He wants to follow in his father's footsteps, the American Dream, to get the Universal title, which is currently held by Roman Reigns.
Yep.
So yes, they had him up against The Miz, which was kind of funny this past Monday. You kind of wonder, I looked at it as it was the reality TV match, The Miz versus Cody Rhodes. Yeah. It was kind of funny, how that worked out. And, The Miz is a consummate great opponent for him. Seth Rollins is. I look at some of those guys, but, you're going to get on the level of Roman Reigns right now is just at a level, he just knocked off Brock Lesnar for maybe a second time. He's gone through all the top rank of the WWE. How do we get Cody Rhodes into this storyline? That's going to make sense.
Yeah.
There's a definite size difference there. Let's be honest. Between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, there's not only a height difference, there's a weight difference, there's a physique difference. So that's what they're going to need to overcome here.
Yeah.
Because Roman Reigns has beat Brock Lesnar. He's beat Drew McIntyre. He's gone down the line of, so how does Cody Rhodes fit into this equation as a singles wrestler coming out? Cody Rhodes currently has no manager, and I don't see anyone else following him behind him going to the ring.
No, but the one thing that I believe is true, in fact, right now, Cody Rhodes is the most popular, moreover, babyface in the company.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely going to help him out.
He made the jump. He made the jump back over.
Yep. He basically what Cody did. He left WWE. He went and got himself over He got more. He got more experience, and he came back. Now he's a top babyface. So he played the game to the T.
And he has. And Vince McMahon's loyal. You know, the Rhodes family, Dusty, you know. But don't think Vince McMahon is just sitting also back behind his desk saying, I snagged one.
Right, yeah.
From the other side.
Yeah, because that's definitely not the case.
Yeah, he may not say it to his face, but he's saying, okay, let's see what else we could, what else we could do.
Yeah.
You know, so it's an interesting time. It's an interesting time. And Cody Rhodes will be a great opponent for Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
right now he's just so over.
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely looking forward to see how all this pans out for sure. It's definitely good. It's going to be good once they get to the match.
Right. And now, you know, you got Reigns. He's promoting this bloodline thing.
Yeah.
With the Usos and the Samoans and The Rock and Rocky Johnson, all this stuff. Well, Cody Rhodes has got some bloodlines too.
Yeah. You know, the greatest booker of all time.
Does that play into this storyline somehow? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's creeping towards, you know, maybe SummerSlam, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's really not that far away. It's only 4 months away.
Yeah.
Whether that, you know, or maybe do they spill it over to the Survivor Series? You know, time will tell.
Yeah.
But it's a fun time right now, and they'll go through how this is going to play out, and or it could be, which would be crazy, it could be a potential 1 year buildup for WrestleMania next year. It'd be a long buildup. There's going to have to be some ebbs and flows through this, but that I wouldn't say maybe be. I don't think that's off the table either.
I agree with you 100%. Now, Chris, getting to night 2, the first match I want to talk about is probably my favorite. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm skipping. So the main event for night 1 was the return of Stone Cold Steve Austin against the KO Show, Kevin Owens. That match was a classic, and not only that, but Steve Austin is the oldest wrestler to main event a WrestleMania. But Chris, that right there tells you just how over and how important Steve Austin was to the WWE.
I mean, this build-up was at least 6-8 weeks in the making, probably maybe even a little bit longer than that, when Kevin Owens first started trashing the state of Texas. Steve Austin, WWE, everything he did.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Owens had zero chance in this match.
Yeah, but you know something, Chris?
But he was there. He was there.
I like the way they started the match out.
Yep.
You know, if they come out there, they made the people think, well, it's not really a match. They're going to do this stupid KO talk show, and then it turned into a wrestling match, and then they fought all over the building, back into the ring, and what a great ending, and a great way to end night 1. And then that carried us over to night 2. And the first match I want to talk about at night 2, which was my favorite, which really got me very entertained. But it was Sami Zayn against Johnny Knoxville. And then, of course, some of the characters of Jackass got involved. But, Chris, the biggest pop of the night was when they came out with that oversized mousetrap. And that's how they ended up pinning Sami Zayn. It was great, you know, and I think that's something that wrestling's missing today is the comedy part of it. You know, if anybody has came and saw me wrestle, I always try to incorporate a little comedy stuff in there because I not only pride myself in being a good heel and pissing people off, but I also pride myself in making people laugh at me. And I've been told, more than one time from Jimmy Valiant telling me that he said, Tony, the thing I like about you is 1 minute the people want to kill you, and the next minute they're laughing so hard they start liking you. And I just feel like, pro wrestling always needs that little, the little, laughter or funny thing, to work on, all parts of, a fan's, have a mad 1 minute, sad the next, happy the next, and just keep all that going. And that's definitely what they done during this match.
No, absolutely. I mean, and that's a good, Sami Zayn, there was some definite build up to this match. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Johnny Knoxville, anything goes. I mean, it's, for Sami Zayn, his record in the WWF, WWE has not been very good over the years. So for him not to win the match is no surprise.
Right.
For me at all, but the props, he fits the character and the role, and it works for him. And hey, you're working on WrestleMania Sunday, you're getting paid.
Yeah.
Or any WrestleMania match. So, for where Sami Zayn goes from here, who knows? Johnny Knoxville, but a good match. It was storylined into WrestleMania, and really, this match could have probably happened on either day,
on either night, and it still would have been good.
Yeah, it would have been good. It probably didn't fit into the opening night with a couple of women's matches that took place and some other storylines. So it stuck it into the, into the second night, and it worked leading up to, the Universal title main event, and it probably made more sense at that point.
Yeah, it was definitely good. The other thing, now here's the match that after this match, I was very tempted to turn it off because I said, nothing can top this. And I still stand by those words, but not so much this match, but the end of this match. But Pat McAfee taking on Austin Theory, Mr. McMahon's protege. Austin gets the win over Pat McAfee. Then Vince McMahon gets in the ring, and his 70s is still in better shape than most. But got in the ring with Pat McAfee. Austin Theory tries to interfere, and here we go one more time. Stone Cold Steve Austin makes that run down the ramp into the ring, and we get to see him one last time give Mr. McMahon the Stone Cold Stunner. And I have to admit, this one was probably the worst of all. But
yeah,
I was a 20-some-year-old kid again, watching the Austin McMahon feud. And I think it was great for that feud to end right there in the state of Texas. And man, I think everybody, even the boys in the back, enjoyed that part.
Well, if you were a fan that couldn't make it both nights, you saw Stone Cold one way or the other.
Yeah.
Whether it was in person, it was on pay-per-view. You saw him both nights. Yeah, obviously, Kevin Owens the first night, the Pat McAfee, Vince McMahon angle the second night. And listen, Vince played this up. Obviously, with Pat McAfee in the ring, you got ESPN, national television, networks are covering this. So not only is he playing himself up, you put Stone Cold Steve Austin into the mix, it's going to get further, national and worldwide attention. So they definitely played it up in night two. Vince McMahon getting in the ring. Okay. I'm not sure about all of that, but having Stone Cold come out, no one was going to leave disappointed. They thought they were going to drink beer with them. They did for a half of a hot second, and we know what the outcomes are when you do that with Steve Austin in the ring. You usually don't end up finishing your beer.
Yep. And then, and speaking of beer, at the end of that, Stone Cold comes out with Pat McAfee, has a few drinks, gives him the stunner, and Steve leaves everybody happy, drinking, the Steve Austin beer. And incidentally enough, Chris, I was in the grocery store, local grocery store here where I live last week, and lo and behold, they sell the Steve Austin beer. I'm not much of a beer drinker, as you know, but I did buy it, and I'm headed down to I'm going south this weekend, Chris. I'm Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm heading down there this weekend with the family. A lot of celebration going on this weekend for my family. And Chris, my wife planned this out pretty well. 5 years ago, she and I got married, and we got married. Wow. Yeah. So this weekend we are celebrating our anniversary, but the day before our anniversary, we're celebrating my wife's birthday. She planned this out great, so she gets 2 presents.
Oh, you're getting double whammy.
Back to back, But no, I'm just teasing. But definitely, we're going down this weekend, so I thought I'm going to bring that beer down, and I'm going to drink it and celebrate our anniversary. And I'm going to sit there on the beach and soak up some sun, hopefully, and have a few Steve Weisers and think about my wrestling career and everything I've done, and kind of mentally prepare me for my big match coming up. And then I even have a even bigger match coming up in May, and we'll be talking about that next week on next week's podcast. So you got to make sure you tune in for that. Now, as we move forward, finalizing the last match that I want to talk about this week, the title unification of the WWE Champion Brock Lesnar taking on Universal Champion Roman Reigns. I really thought Brock was going to come out ahead on this one, Chris, but there at the end, Roman snuck in and got another W, and now he has unified the WWE and Universal Championship. Chris, what are your thoughts on this unification?
Well, I mean, it definitely strengthens Roman Reigns' camp as he's the top dog. If he wasn't the top dog going in, he's definitely the top dog now.
Yeah.
Whether this is a tip of the hat to some of the history of the WWF or the WWE with this storyline, I'm not sure. They keep referring to the Wild Samoans and The Rock and Rocky Johnson and his bloodline, and that's all in the Usos and Rikishi, whatever. That's all great stuff. So I don't know if it's a tip to where they came from, and this is where we are now, and this is where we're going. For Brock Lesnar, where he goes from here, I really have no idea from a storyline standpoint, because I read online, I did watch the match. It was far from their best match they've ever had. Some people, even some critics, thought it paralleled their match that they had at Crown Jewel earlier last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I don't know. It's kind of like, where does Reigns go from here? Where's the next big opponent? And we kind of hinted who could be the next big opponent in Cody Rhodes, which is definitely out there. But who's the next guy that's going to take this guy down? Because from a stature standpoint, I don't know of anyone in the locker room that could take him down at this point, and got the Usos behind them and God knows who else. And, so that's what I was telling you. Some of the storylines coming out of WrestleMania, they're methodically taking it a little slow, and that's okay. You know, where things are going, who's taking on who, and who, you know, I think they're trying to figure all that out. But with that said, Roman Reigns is the man right now.
Yeah.
And I kind of think also Brock, him going into this, I don't know how serious he really was with this match. I mean, you saw a lot of stuff from Brock leading into it. I don't know. I mean, it's like Roman Reigns destroyed him in Madison Square Garden. What a month or two ago at the Super Show, and Brock was left in the ring full of blood. And Brock said he was coming after some blood in WrestleMania, but never really got there.
Yeah.
And it was like it's over. Almost kind of like Charlotte Flair or Ronda Rousey. You know,
yeah.
So I just don't know where Brock is going from here with what they're trying to do. They're trying to do this cowboy image. I don't know. He almost actually, Brock Lesnar actually 1 week, not that he is him, but the way Brock was talking and acting, I was like, God, he's almost like a older Jason Aldean out there.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, they had him in cowboy boots and a hat and, you know, this flannel shirt. And I'm like, what are they doing? I mean, I'm just trying to figure it out. You know, he's not the guy that came from, you know, the Octagon and
right.
Ultimate Fighting. So it makes you wonder a little bit where his career is going from here and what's next for Brock Lesnar.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, is he going to go after Roman Reigns again? I mean, or he beat you like 2 or 3 times. So
yeah, it's going to be. It's
got some figuring out to do.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how things pan out over the next few weeks. So we'll have to definitely watch that very closely, for sure. Well, Chris, great show this week as we discussed the WrestleMania recap. Next week, like I said, I have a major announcement concerning the Patriotic Wrestling Federation. And we'll get more into that hopefully next week. But
I'm excited. I'm not going to sleep a week for the next 7 days. Tony, come on now. No.
I know.
We'll be ready to go.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a good a good surprise, I think. So we'll definitely talk about that next week. Chris, you have anything else to say before we close this week's show?
Man, Tony, what a great time to be watching professional wrestling right now. We're off of the WrestleMania season. You got options out there, wrestling fans. You could watch, TNA wrestling. You could watch AEW. You could watch WWE on Monday night and Friday night and pay-per-views once a month. Or you can go down to your local high school and watch independent pro wrestling and watch these guys battle it out on Friday and Saturday night. Tony, to me, it's all just as good. It's great entertainment. And I'm telling you, these local shows, they're cooking right now. People are looking to get out, and it's the best dollar for your money if you're looking to get up close and personal and get some autographs and pictures. And Tony, I know you're ready for April 30th. I don't know who your opponent is, but I know you're getting ready and also getting ready to see Ricky and Robert and all the boys in the back.
Yes, I'm looking forward to hanging out with Ricky and Robert. Now I will say this. I will give the fans this little hint. On the next PWF show coming up in May, there's going to be a couple of WWE Hall of Famers on that show, and one of them is a great friend of mine, and we talk about him a lot on the podcast, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him again, and that's the handsome Jimmy, the Boogie Woogie Man Valiant. He's going to be there. But Chris, that's just a start of my huge announcement. So you definitely want to tune in next week and find out all the inside scoop that I'm going to have and hear it, and you'll be hearing it first here on the Binge Buster Show before the PWF announces it. So,
thank you for that little tidbit. I can sleep well now for the next week, and
yes,
I know Boogie's going to be there in May, and I'm excited to hear the rest of the announcements because I have a gut feeling it's going to be loaded from top to bottom.
It's definitely going to be a good show. Well, fans, for Chris, I'm Tony. We will see you next week right here on the Binge Buster Show.
Thank you for listening to the Binge Buster Show. Make sure you like us on Facebook and download us on your favorite podcast platform.